Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone who is listening to this, we are on the Buy, Build, Sell podcast, episode one. Really, I have done an episode before, but let's be honest, it never went anywhere, never did anything, and it wasn't that interesting. Um, this one's going to be interesting because I feel like, in a weird way, I'm kind of talking to myself, but from a different perspective, a different angle, and I hope a lot more interesting than me because I am boring. Um, we got Daniel Coleman here today, who is a builder who's been building for
I think about 20 years at this point. 20
Jesus
years.
Christ, you're old. Yeah, so 20 years of experience. That's a lot. It's really not that much now that I think about it because I'm at 12, so you don't have like that much on me,
I
but you
feel
definitely
like
have a
I
lot
still feel
more
like
on me.
I'm still at the beginning of my career, to be honest with you. I still feel like I'm just
It's
a pup.
weird. I feel like that's because we have a similar mindset about what we do, which is we're never in teaching mode. We're always in learning mode.
100%. Every day. I've done a lot of builds. I don't think I've done as many as you, full builds, but I swear I still learn something new every single build. And it's getting easier as we go on because the more that we learn, the more that we see, and the more that we're able to repeat and gain efficiencies. But I still learn something new every single day.
Yeah,
So
that's what it is. I've realized that. I've come to that conclusion on my own where I go, like, I feel like I just started, and then people will tell me, they'll be like, "Oh, like you've done so much, and like you're so knowledgeable about what you do," and I go, please don't say that. I'm I'm not ready to be that person. I'm still trying to learn everything, and I think that when you go back in time, you're like, okay, high school, college, whatever educational experience you are, like, until you graduate, that's when you're like, okay, now I'm ready to go out into the world. Once we've had that moment of graduation, and when you're in adult life, and when you're doing what you're doing, there's no graduation unless particularly maybe like you have a goal you're going for, or like you're reaching something that you're attaining. I guess that's when maybe you can say you've graduated. But me personally, I've never really had I've had attainable goals, and we've all set goals for ourselves, but I've never been like, listen, once I hit this thing, I'm done. I've reached it. I've never hit my graduation point, at least not yet. Maybe when I'm older, who knows?
yeah, and I don't think I don't think anybody's ever ready to do what we do. I think only you just got to jump in. You can read all of the books you want. You can take all of the, have as many mentors as you want, but you never fully graduate until you jump in and you do it and pull the band-aid off and drop your huevos and actually dig in and do it. And so, I don't think we're alone. I think everybody's just kind of, they say, fake it till you make it. But when I first started, I was definitely faking it. And I don't think I've made it yet, but I do think that the only way to do it is to jump in. So
Can we go back in time? Can I hear how you kind of got started in all of this and how you ended up in
yeah,
a horrible situation today?
I know exactly. I don't know what our major malfunction is and why we're doing this still, but here we are. I heard a conversation you just had with one of your workers just like 5 minutes ago, and it like literally is a conversation that I have 20 times a day. I was laughing to myself, but yeah, I have family in the business, and my uncle was a general contractor, and he did all of his framing in house. He's primarily a framing contractor, and I just graduated high school. Went straight to work for my uncle, and he was like, it was back in those days. It was crazy booming. There was a lot of work going around. He was extended and saw that I was like a young, eager, smart kid that really enjoyed what I was doing, and he gave me an opportunity to frame. It was like a 5,000 square foot hillside custom, with like a 3-story radius tower, a 2-story octagon tower. He gave it to me for $6 a foot, and I was a 19-year-old kid framing this thing. Whatever, what's 6 times 5,000? It's like a $30,000 contract, and I thought I was rich. And and it cost me $8 a foot to build it, and I lost whatever that was. But it was a learning experience, and it was like my first taste of working for myself. And I don't know if that was a blessing or a curse, because I've never been able to work for anybody after that in my entire life. It was like, I'm just not a good employee. And it's a blessing in that it's gotten to me to where I am today. But, sometimes I'm sure you can agree, when the buck stops with us and we're the backstop for everything that's going on with our company, having some time off would be nice. And if I was an employee or something, I think I would be able to get some time off. But that's why I say I'm super blessed to do it. But that was like my intro to construction. And then I transitioned into foundation stuff. So I was like building foundations for schools. So I got an introduction on the structural side. Yeah. So I got introduced on the structural side and learned that. I really just took to that really quickly. I loved it, and I still love framing to this day. If there was enough money in it, I think I'd honestly like to be a framer. But so I got my background in structural for a good 4 to 5 years. Went off onto my own. I actually got my contractor's license, and started like a framing foundation boutique company. Did a lot of work in the South Orange County for a couple of larger GCs. And then I met some designers in like the Palisades area where you do a lot of work. And that was like my first transition into like full scale general contracting. And this is like, I think 2012 at this point. So I've been going at it since then. And since 2012 to about 2017, I was purely like a GC, just kind of doing fee work. I call it retail general contracting. And really, I feel like I honed in and got really good. A couple of my first projects were featured in Architectural Digest, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
For a guy named Mike Rosenthal and Jen Atkin. You can Google them. Jen Atkins, she's like a stylist for the Kardashians, and she's pretty well known. But that was like my first full-scale introduction into general contracting, and it was cool. I got to affiliate myself with like designers and saw some of the detail work and taste that they put into their stuff, and it by osmosis kind of rubs off on you, and kind of took all my skills from a structural perspective that I knew, applied that, learned all of my designer stuff from a couple of pretty solid designers, kind of honed that in for about 5 years. And then in 2017, jumped into my first development. And at that point, I really fell in love, having full control of a build. I feel like it's the pinnacle of building, frankly. I fell in love with being able to go to talk to a broker, go see a property that's dilapidated, that doesn't look very nice, and being able to have a vision on what it could be, having the huevos to make an offer, understanding how much to offer, getting it through entitlements and design process is super fun to me. The architectural, structural, geo-civil, all that whole process. I don't necessarily or particularly like dealing with the cities and the entitlements. I learned after my first couple of builds. I've now hired out that process, and it's relieved me of a lot of stress. But I fell in love with the entitlements and the design, and then actually starting to execute the build, and make that come to life, and being the orchestrator of all of the decisions that get made and stuff like that, and actually putting to work all of the skills in the structural side that I've learned, the skills in the design side that I've learned, and applying that to a real tangible structure, and then like the icing on the cake is like, when you stage it and you get to sell it, and your hard work and your vision is executed and you're actually being compensated for it. So that was kind of like the progression. It was boots on the ground for about 5 to 7 years. It was transition into general contracting for about 5 years, then transition into full scale development. And we're still transitioning out of GC work, but that's kind of like the micro shot, 5-minute or less description of the last 20 years.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, one of the things you mentioned about these designers, it's very funny because I've been building for 12 years now, and one of the first houses that we built, that we were building this house, and it was like an $8 million home that we were going to sell. And someone came in before we put it on the market and said, "Hey, we'll buy it from you." They gave us a great offer, and we were like, "Cool, yeah, awesome." They hired this designer, comes in, rips everything up that we were doing, and
wow,
she's like, how would you, like, how are you expecting to sell an $8 million home with this detail? And it was like these small little details that completely changed my perspective on design. And I was like, wow, like I want to work with, like, I can't call myself a designer anymore. I want to work with designers, because it was so amazing to see someone's thought process behind something so small. So I learned a lot from designers over the years, and your note on that brought that back to me also. I was curious, so many people reach out to me about mentorship, about like, how did I learn? What did I learn? Where did it come from? All these other things. And my response is usually that I was being mentored. So to me, a lot of my knowledge is kind of common sense, I guess, to some degree. Like, I don't have a system that I've set up to teach people how to do this stuff, or, for me, the questions that I get asked are almost seem like common knowledge, and I don't really understand how to, I don't understand where the gap in knowledge is missing. So I'm kind of curious from you, how did you feel like you got out of even though obviously we're both in the construction industry, like regardless of the percentage of construction jobs that I do versus what you do, we both are general contractors, and we both do real estate development as well. And I'm curious, for me, I went from development into general construction. You went from general construction into development, which I realize my story is a little bit in reverse. Most people follow your road, but what did you do to get out of construction or general construction into development? How did you learn whatever gaps you felt like you were missing? How did you take yourself out of this plane of existence to the next one and say, okay, how do I go look at one of the major skills that I think we have is that we're able to figure out the cost of repairs for projects, which gives us an upper hand on doing the underwriting on these projects. But what gaps in knowledge did you feel like you were missing, and how did you fill those gaps of knowledge to get you into the developer seat when you did do that, when you finally got to that stage?
Yeah, good question. So they say like your net worth is your network. Your network is your net worth. So I think being around people that are in the business and associating yourself with those people and being inquisitive and bringing value to the table, and rather than lead with, like a lot of my subcontractors, and I'm sure your subcontractors, pay me first, pay me please. It was lead with value, associate with those people, and continue to always lead with value. And the compensation will come if you do that. But as far as like the gap of being general contractor to developer, I think it was just associating myself with those people, always trying to lead with value, but having a vision and a plan on getting there. Like, I've sacrificed a whole bunch. I could have chosen a different route that would have been a lot less stressful. I could have put my family into a house that was like, took a bunch of my net worth off the table, and so managing your longevity from a financial perspective, and sacrificing and putting yourself into a position where it's like not instant gratification, and having a goal and really being tunnel vision focused on achieving that goal. So the first development deal, I saved up enough money just from general contracting, and I didn't know too much about deal structure, and I invested essentially 25% of a deal, and it did really well. I then compounded that again, removed all of my personal finance off the table, and pushed it forward. I was a 50% partner, and kind of just was, for some reason, tunnel vision focused on becoming that. The general contracting work for me was always a means to an end to become a developer, frankly. So, but surrounding myself with good people, in short, surrounding myself with good people, and always trying to lead with value, and having a tunnel vision focus on what your plan is, was something I think that really helped me to go into that direction. What would you say some of your mentors and path forward to where you are today? Like, I'm sure there's eureka moments along the way, right?
Well, I have to say that my biggest mentor in my life is my dad, without even questioning that. He's been the one that really has steered not the ship, my own ship. Meaning we're not in the same boat. He's really given me the ability to have my own boat, and by that I mean my own life, directing my own life, and pursuing everything that is important to me. And he gave me the tools to learn on my own, which was really important. When I first started out, I always say I was the starving musician who needed a job, and that's what it was. It was just me going to my dad saying, "Hey, I need a job," and he said, so my dad happens to be a real estate enthusiast, and he's just really well versed in real estate and all of these things. And like today we're partners. We do almost everything together. There's a few deals that he does separate, and I do a few deals separate, but overall we do a lot of things together. And so he's really well educated in real estate, and he's not the one that I was mentored by. I actually was. So he basically told me at the crash of 2008, he said, I can't help you in music, but you can go get a job with a contractor on this building that I know about, and that's what I did. And then from there I went to go work for a developer, and I was his right-hand man. And I just you were saying, like, you weren't paying attention. Like I was like a racehorse with blinders on, where I wasn't looking at how everyone else was making money, and I wasn't looking at how what I can do to advance myself. I was just completely laser focused on what it was I was doing. Like everything began to fall to the wayside. Music was no longer important. Like I was just like, okay, this is working. I enjoy it. There's this one story that I repeat often, which was I met this famous architect who, when I met with him, all we could talk about was music. And I thought that was super strange. And then he goes, no, it's not strange. Like everyone in this industry, if you have the creative passion, you're going to be really successful by it, because you're taking your passion and you're redirecting it. And that's really like the moment that changed my life, where I was like, I can give up music and be totally fine, and it won't affect me at all, because I've got this, and I can literally take everything that I've loved about what I did in music and pour it into construction and development and design and all the things that I love about this. And
100%.
So I was working
100%.
for this guy, and eventually I partnered with him, and I was able to put my own money into the deals. And we grew and grew and grew and grew. We were doing like 30 houses at a time. When I realized, I'm like, this is too much. I can't be doing this. Like I value my life too much, and that was a moment of learning that money cannot buy happiness. I was not happy, and that was when we split, and I went on my own. But that's the thing. Like I learned all of it from being around him, from being around people that were surrounded by him, that were learning from him too. A lot of real estate agents, a lot of contractors that I knew. There were major people throughout the storyline, but overall, it's true. I was inherently surrounded by these people because I was employed and then partnered with somebody who was already doing this. And so I wasn't choosing my circle. My circle was already around me just by my circumstance. I think that if I had to figure out how to place myself in those circles, like that's where I think the trick is, and the struggle is. You do need to find your value. You need to find what you can do for other people, and then allow yourself to get into those things. Like people always try to, buy a course from me or pay me for my time. And those are all really nice ideas and great concepts. But I always tell people, I'm like, that's great, but I don't have a business for that. Like I don't have a system set up to do that. So how do you provide me real value where that's going to make sense? Usually my response is, hey, find me the deal. Let's go in on a deal together, or like, let's figure out how we can both make money together, and I can teach you along that route, as opposed to like, just pay me.
That's interesting.
But like, I don't know how to, like, I mean, there's different ways, right? Like if you're an architect and you want to get to the table with a developer, maybe you do the plans for free. Or maybe you do the running for free that you charge for the plans. Or maybe, if you're a tile guy, hey, I'll do this at cost, but I want experience. Or if you have no skills at all, maybe you take a $15 an hour job with someone who's going to be able to teach you. Yeah. This is for the person out there who really wants to get in. You might be coming from $150,000 salary, or you figured out how to make $150,000 a year from a business. But if you want to do real estate and development, find your value and provide that value to the person that is going to teach you the best. That's kind of 100%. At least in my mind, that's how I feel like that would magically work. Maybe it's not as functional, but I don't know.
100%. And you got a lot of knowledge that you've gained over the years. So I mean, and I've thought the same thing, like on how to, because I get people asking me the same types of questions, and like I want to figure out a way to teach these kids that are legitimately interested, because I love what I do, and I could save people a lot of time and headache and energy and stress and gray hair if I was to actually help somebody. And we mentioned before the podcast started is like, if we could help one person and they're listening, and it's just one person that listens to it and goes, man, like that's like they get inspired or whatever, and we help one person, that's a cool deal. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious about your systems, and I hope I'm not prodding too much.
yeah, no,
when
no,
I ask.
yeah, yeah,
But I am kind of curious about how you operate your systems. So, like I said, when I was doing 30 houses at a time,
yeah,
you'd be surprised to find out we had no systems. Like everything
really,
was just an email and write a check. So it was like it was LLCs for projects, and someone had it at an invoice. It was like, okay, invoice goes into an email, send it to the office. Office is going to write a check, or Jason's going to run to the job site, write it out on a checkbook, and then hopefully the bookkeeper can balance the checks at the end of the job. Like, I mean,
yeah,
to tell you this now, it's absolutely insane. But I'm curious. I always felt like, especially coming from the contractor side into the development side, contractors, hopefully, my assumption is that they're starting out with some semblance of a system to pay out their subs, so that way they can move the job forward for their clients and for themselves. So,
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you grew your systems to make your systems work for you.
It was, good question. And I'd like to think that I've been able to really dial in and hone in and refine our processes. That being said, I still think, and it's just probably my nature, there's still always in my mind room for refinement and improvement of the SOPs. But it was kind of an organic growth. Similar to you when I first started, it was just like crazy. I was the estimator, I was the project manager, superintendent, bookkeeper, AP, AR. I was everything, and it was just, I learned a lot. It was very unorganized, but somehow always got it done. And I'll say when I started to do more projects, it just became overwhelming, and it forced me to have to hire out. So I guess step one, just from a high level view, is hiring out some of those tasks. And then I came to the dilemma of like, okay, well, I hired out somebody, but A, who do I hire? B, how do I hire them? C, how do I make sure that I'm monitoring them, because I don't have an office, we're all virtual. How do we monitor that person so that we know what they're doing? And D, is it even providing value? But so I found by hiring out and then establishing a very clear, like, bullet point scope or job description of what you expect that person to do. And then I found, okay, I got the job description, but how do I enforce? How do I track what they're doing? How do I understand that they're following my standard operating procedures that I've established? And so trying to figure out a KPI behind this, the operations, so that you can have them report back to you, or
I lost you.
making sure that you. Yeah, I got a call coming in. I'm as you know, I'm on the fly. I'm in the truck. But hiring out, step one, figuring out standard operating procedures for the person that you're hiring, so that they know exactly what their scope is, and then having like a key performance indicator to follow back on what they're doing. But so hiring out, and I got an assistant who handles all of my AR and my AP, accounts receivables and accounts payables, and we use a purchase order tracking system, and we implement a Builder Trend as our like network of
nice.
Our Builder Trend. And my superintendents, they all know that they're supposed to take daily pictures. I tell them to take 5 to 10 pictures of the work that they performed every day. If they can't take 5 to 10 pictures of the work that they performed that day,
they didn't
that's a
do
good
anything.
indicator to me. Yes. Yeah. A, that's a good indicator that they didn't do anything. And B, if they did do something and they didn't take pictures, they're not following orders. And so in either case, in my mind, that's a no.
Yeah.
That's no good. If I'm going to implement the procedures and you're not going to follow them, even if you're doing the work, I don't like that. And if you can't take pictures because you didn't do the work, that's obviously no good as well. But so having my assistant prepare all of the contracts was a very big help. She handles all of my payroll, kind of my AR, but I don't know if I'm ever going to be fully out of accounts receivables from the banks and clients. And then AP was a big one. It was a big buffer for me to have a subcontractor bill me and say, as she's my buffer. I call her E. Her name is E. That's my buffer. Hey, I don't know. I'm just the owner of the company. Talk to E. She's got it.
Yep.
She has her. She has her. She knows what to do. It's on. She onboards the subs, and I gave her a very clear thing. It's not rocket science. You need X, Y, and Z. Once they've done this, they're authorized to work on our project. Once they want to send a bill, they got to do X, Y, and Z. If you verified they've got that, then I authorize you to issue payment. So that was a big alleviator of why I'm even able to do a podcast with you and not be sitting behind a computer screen typing, because I've outsourced that. And then B, another big one was, you know what I mean? Another one was the estimator. And so that I'm not sitting on the phone calling every Larry, Dick, and Tom, hey, can you do a drywall job for me? Hey, can you bid this electrical? But getting an estimator, their sole purpose in life for working for my company is to establish scope, submit bid requests, negotiate, pound down on the pricing, and set up the pre-contract work so that E, my assistant, can take it, execute the contract. So in short, those are high level views of kind of my processes on how to kind of manage the beast, I guess.
Love it.
So
yeah. That's a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'm gonna kill my kid because he's bouncing the basketball and it's driving me. I don't know if you can hear it, but
I can't.
No. Okay. Let me get it. I'm gonna put you on hold for 1 second.
No worries.
Okay.
I got 3 little ones.
Huh?
No, I said I have 3 little ones, and so I know. I know what you're going through.
3 kids? All boys or what?
I do. I have 2 girls and a boy.
2 girls and a boy. I got 3 boys. So it's
all right.
Yeah, I feel like you got it easy with the girls, but I might be wrong. I don't know.
We'll see. Yeah, they're good now. I heard that the teenage years are going to be a little bit different, but
promise you'll let me know.
I promise I will let you know. Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's very interesting because the systems for me were so up in the air when I was like trying to even get myself started. It took hiring a guy who was a contractor for his own business to come work for me that I was like, well, he was like, well, I mean, I'm going to be running projects. I need a system to like set things up. And I'm like, all right, well, what did you do? And he's like, well, this is what I did. And my office staff saw it. Like I have staff, but it was not systemized. I had done, so Brad from AFT called me. I called him, sorry. And I had asked him what I should do about trying to organize my business and create systems. And he says, hire people smarter than you, which I literally played golf with him and I told him this to his face. And I know that if he's listening to this, he'll laugh. I said, it was the worst advice ever, Brad. And I hired this guy, super expensive. He took 3 months of my time, 3 months of my money, and he didn't intentionally burn it, but it was burned because he was trying to figure out my systems. But I'm like, I'm paying you to create the systems for me and help figure out how to put all this together. and it was a one hell of a ride. But basically, it's not bad advice. It just didn't end up working in my favor. Truthfully, it's great advice. Hire people smarter than you, and that's what I did. I hired somebody smarter than me, and this guy had systems already in place, and I was like, great, let's do it, let's go. And literally, we all fell in love with it, jumped on board. It's a lot of work, but it's okay. It's better to have a lot of work and be systemized than to be juggling a lot of work and not know what is flying. So, very interestingly. Do you hear that noise or no?
And I don't.
I feel like no one has respect in my house for me.
Yeah, they don't. They don't listen. Dude, I tell subcontractors, I'm yelling not yelling, but I'm telling people, how to do things all day long. When I get home, I'm a big like softie to my kids. Like they own me. My wife's the disciplinary. I don't want to. I'm cracking the whip all day. I don't want to go home and start to be that guy. So I get pushed around.
So I feel you. So we're coming up on the close here, and I kind of wanted to leave the last 15 minutes or so for just genuine conversation about one, like, I follow your stuff, you follow mine. What's some things that I feel like you might have questions for me on? Like, what are some things that I might be able to help answer for you? As someone who, I know you want to do more of what I do and less of what you currently do, and just dive more into those sort of things. So I wanted to open up the platform to that as well, if that's okay.
100%.
Yeah.
So I would say something that I've always noticed is that your projects are always, and I think you alluded to this before, but a couple things. A, they're always well designed and well thought out, and really just amazing work. So I guess first question is like, how do you work with designers? Do you work with a designer on your project?
Yeah. So,
kind of how that marries into what you do, and how that relationship. We have an in-house designer, and I'm curious to see how your relationship is with your designers. And then second thing that was interesting, just really quick, was like deal structure. I don't know if you want to talk about deal structure at all, and how you involve yourself in deals, and how you partner with people, and what that looks like for you. I know what I've got, but I'm curious to see how your structure is. But A, your well-designed work, how your designers are working with you, and vice versa. And then B, kind of some deal structure stuff.
Those are two great questions. So the first question on the designer stuff, when I was doing these like a ton of homes back in the day, my partner was mostly doing the design. I was mostly just learning. And like I said, we had that moment where a designer came in on one of our projects and kind of tore us apart. And that was a big learning experience for me. We then started experimenting. We would work with a designer, and we work with this designer. We would just kind of jump around. And at first, I remember not really understanding what designers did. Like,
yeah, I know.
In the beginning, it was kind of really strange, because I'm like, you're here on the project, but like you don't do anything, but you're ordering stuff, but like, how come you don't like take a role in the project? Like, all you're doing is picking shit, but you're not like dealing with the details of the contractor. Like, talk to the cabinet guy, talk to the tile guy, like talk to the flooring guy, talk to the electrician about heights and locations and shit like that. And that's where the level of designer changes, right?
100%.
And then what I learned was that, the first designers that I ever really worked with were just winging it, really. They had a good sense of style, but they didn't really know what they were doing. And then you start to learn the levels of designers. Um, I guess I can say I've become a designer myself. In that I do have a design. I do really appreciate design, and I really enjoy doing design myself. What I've learned is that for my own projects, so I'm glad I love doing design for other people, but on my own projects, I have done design and I do some of the designs. So I'll pick and choose which houses I'm going to design. But overall, it's a lot of work. It's a ton of work, and I cannot do all of them. If I did all of them, and if I did my job well, I would. That it would be so much work, I'd be buried. So it has to be subbed out to designers and have a collaboration effort on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and what we're going to execute on, because otherwise I don't think I'd ever sleep. And I like to sleep.
On that note, yeah, 100%. I know. And on that note, how does that budget fit into, because we kind of do it in-house, so we don't feel it, but like, how does that impact your budget? Like, how do they charge? And
so I'm going to say something that I'm going to say something, and I don't know if it comes off poorly or not. Whatever the cost of designing, of like subbing out the design or paying somebody else to help me with the design, whatever that cost is, and whatever it would cost you, by the way, hopefully, whatever dent it's putting into the budget should not affect the outcome of it being a successful job. Like, who cares what it costs? $2,000, $4,000, $10,000, $30,000, potentially more. Whatever the number is, whatever the scale of the project. Obviously, the scale of the project should quantify the number, but I don't think that it should affect your profit line. It's a cost of the job. If hopefully you're squeezing down the tile guy, you're squeezing down the framer, you're squeezing down this guy, whoever it is you're squeezing down. If you can adjust, your subs appropriately and then spread the designer cost on top of that, then you're back to square one. Who cares?
Right.
At least in my opinion.
Good to know.
I think also if you get a good, when you do it in-house, hopefully you're executing and it's working for you. But if you get a good enough designer, your execution is going to level up. Your production is going to level up. Everyone's going to level up. Your management's going to be able to have a clear execution of what the job is going to be, and you can execute appropriately. I've done so many projects like where I'm just the designer, where I'll do a whole design plan, send it off to the contractors, and they just abuse it. They never look at it. They don't do anything with it. They use it for tile choices and colors, and that's it. Like, they don't look at it at all. And then you're like, the project's completely ruined. But if they just would have looked at it once, they would have been like, oh, you wanted that detail? Why didn't you say that? Why did I have to say it? It's in the plan. If you would have actually looked at it. So there's moments of that, but it's substantial help.
100%. We've got a part-time person that does that, and I would call her like a design coordinator. So she has taste. But to your point, like, I think there's levels of designers, and the coordination, I think, is the more like objective part of that, the scope of what a designer does. And if it's like, if we're getting like Amazon shipments at this address and like UPS and like Ferguson, like, and it's all scattered about with no rhyme or reason, which the only reason I'm saying that is that's kind of how it feels like our design coordination is at the moment.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, the packages show up. Where does it go?
Yeah,
who's responsible for saying that?
I guess it's my house, and we missed 3 plumbing fixtures. Like, did we not do an inventory? We ordered them, but like they're not on site, so they were received, or were they not? I don't know. But so refining that process would be cool. And then I think lastly, just like some of your deal structures and how, like,
Yeah, the deal structures.
are you like buying things on with 100% of your own capital, or do you
So
partner?
so today, this is a really great question, and it's not easy to answer because who I am today versus who I was when I first started doing this on my own, and truthfully, not really, because even when I started doing it on my own, I had so much, I had built so much confidence in investors that going on my own wasn't scary, or it wasn't this big risky thing, because everyone knew that I could execute on a major
Right.
level.
Yeah.
To start with one house, I started with one house and then built that back up, and now I'm at about 15 projects per cycle, and that's my comfort level. That's where I know that I'm not going to be like, where I was when I was at 30 houses. And so when I started, it was like I try to basically make my investors percentages, not on their money, not on the project.
Got it.
And I've kind of we've gone from investors, like, family and friends and people who are just interested in making money on their money, to more bank financing. So the bank financing now today is, I wouldn't say tremendously cheaper than hard money, which is what I would call what I used to do. But it's definitely cheaper. It's definitely a harder process. It needs a lot more infrastructure to make that happen. Meaning you need AR and AP to like really make bank financing possible. And especially if you're working, you might know that if you're working for clients who are using banks to fund jobs at all, it is a tough process. So you need people who are literally staffed up and capable of going through all that documentation. So today, that's pretty much what we do. And sometimes they require 10%, 20%, 30%, depends on the scale of the job. And every 5% in between there. And then every once in a while, I'm using hard money to fill in those gaps, or I'm using my own capital. And to do that today is easy because we've had 12 years of being able to get to that point. I think when you're starting out, deal structure is completely different. And I think that it's completely different. I know that what I do today is not possible for everybody. It's not like the easiest thing to just say, oh, go get bank financing. It's really hard. And it took relationships. It took introductions. It took proving to the banks that we were a viable option, that they saw what we were doing and said, hey, like, these guys actually do really good work. They're killing it. It's not like just like, oh, go to a bank, they'll give you a great loan. They're not. They're going to charge you unless they really believe in you. And I think that starting out, when you're starting out, the thing that I think I tell people the most is, don't focus on what you're going to make. Focus on what you're going to make for other people. And then be okay with what's left on the table.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, definitely.
Because that, like, you get people, like, you make people money, people are going to be so thrilled to keep giving you money. And they're going to be willing to give you more money and more money. And it's just going to pile on. And, people are going to tell other people about how you've made them money. And then all of a sudden, you will have the ability to borrow money. And it might be expensive, but you can do bigger deals and make more money.
Yes, 100%. Yep. And that was a big help for me, was the track record of the extensive stuff that we've got. So we've been fortunate enough to establish some relationships with some good banks, some good hard money lenders, some good equity partners. And that was the biggest, I guess, hurdle that I thought was insurmountable from being a general to where we are today, was just not understanding capital partners and how they work, um and once I got introduced to that whole ecosystem, it like opens your world to a different to a different thing. So, but anyways, yeah, that's some good stuff, Jason.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because I'll get calls all the time now from lenders. You know, they'll see what I do and they'll just be like, hey, like, and I'll be like, great, what are you offering me? Not like not, oh, let me convince you to invest. It's like,
Right.
well, what are you offering me? And it's usually not anywhere as good as what I currently have. That's one. But yeah, there's so many people out there who are ready to put their money to work. And if they know that you're an investable option that's going to put their money to work correctly, you know, some people don't care and they're all about, you know, how to protect their money. So, you know, some people are going to give you money, but they're going to own the property, or they're going to put liens where on things that have nothing to do with anything, like your car or your office building or whatever, your personal home. They might like just to say, I want my money secured. You know, you fail to pay back this loan, I'm taking your house. I don't care, you know?
Yeah, backed by the asset and a personal guarantee, right? Yeah.
Right. So there are people out there who will do that. And the truth is if you are genuinely capable of risking those things, take the risk, go do it. But if you can take the slow road to building your portfolio, doing the things you got to do, working with the right people, you'll get there.
100%. Yep, that's well said. And that goes back to providing value first instead of going me, like, well, how much are you going to pay me? Provide the value, whether it's for an investor or a client. It's the way to go. So
100%. It's what we're trying to do right now. We're not benefiting from this. No. We're just providing value.
Well, and also, you know, the years that we've got, the experience that we've got, it'd be a shame if we were like to be, you know, not wanting to give that back to people. I was a stubborn guy. It was hard to tell me anything. So I learned all these kind of by trial by error and trial by fire. And I got burned a few times. So it's like sentimental to me to have gained all this knowledge in the way that I did. And so anyways, yeah, giving it back is a cool thing.
100%.
But
I think that's our gift.
That's our cue,
right?
100%.
Hey man, listen, you are awesome. I genuinely appreciate you coming on, being guest one. I feel like you brought a ton of value to this. And also, by the way, thank you for all the help you've given me. You like, whether you realize that or not. It's any time. First of all, you've helped me out tremendously. You I don't want to say what you did. You know what you did. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want anyone to come find me. But you've helped me out tremendously in the past, and you don't realize that those things are huge.
Yeah.
In that one, first of all, anyone listening to this, take that one thing to heart. Do things without asking for anything back, and you will receive tenfold. That's just a life fact. Okay. And then two is really do things without any expectation, right? Is one. And then number two is keep on giving. And you just keep on rinsing and repeating that, because that's literally the whole point of life.
What is it? Reciprocity? How do you say that? Where it's like reciprocating. What you give is what you get. But you know,
that might not have been one thing. It might have just been one thing. I thought it was two, but maybe it really just comes back to being one item, which is fine. I'm okay with being the stupid guy on this thing. But
Right.
The truth is there's no other reason to be in this life but to give. When you really think about it, everything that we do in life all comes down to, in some other way, shape, or form, is to give. So I appreciate you. I appreciate what you've done for me. I appreciate you being on this podcast. And I hope that everyone here that is listening to this will learn something, and not just listen, take action. If you got questions, we've got answers. Ask them. We're here to provide for you. But otherwise, have a great weekend. Thank you so much for your time on this.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, man. And it was an honor, and thank you for asking me to be on. And yeah, hopefully we could do it again. And
I look forward to it. Season 2. 100%.
Season 2. Sounds good, go. Man. Sounds good, Jason. Take care. And
well,
get in touch.
Have a great one.
Have a good week. Okay.
Bye.